Welcome back to a new episode of the Unstoppable Force podcast.
I'm Guy,
And I'm Rob.
and this week we're going to be talking about solid-state batteries.
Yeah.
Basically, what solid-state batteries are is they're like a new technology. It's been sort of new. I feel like it's hit its like the forefront of the technological world in about 2017.
Right. I think just now we're getting even better advancement in this technology. Right. I think that's kind of what we're going to talk about.
And so basically, a lot of one of the biggest roadblocks for us technologically to kind of get to that next stage has always been batteries and storage specifically. And we've talked about this before with like electrical vehicles,
right?
And like how far they can currently go. It's only like about 300 miles or like 500 miles.
Yeah.
And that would be huge to be able to go like upwards of 600, 700, 800 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then also there's several like devices like your phone or they already last like 2 days, but at least mine does. I feel like I use it.
I think regardless of if I hit like 50% or whatever,
mm-hmm.
I always plug my phone in at night anyway.
I always forget to, and it goes so low. But it would be great to be able to like charge it twice as long.
Yeah. Well, that and like smartwatches, like Apple Watch only lasts a day, like 18 hours, and you have to charge it. But I think like the bigger applications are like the electrical vehicles, or even like renewable energy, where we have all like solar, for example. When you have a lot of the energy, coming into the panels and you're storing in the battery, you won't use it all. But on top of that, there's also a lot of energy that can come in through these solar panels because the sun is such high energy that you need, like, the batteries need to have a higher capability of storing the energy quicker,
right,
and discharging it quicker.
Yeah.
So like that's what these kind of are gonna help us do.
But I feel like it's interestingly enough, it is in electrical vehicles that this has gotten so advanced.
Right. It's we're like the companies need to compete with gas cars that you can go 1,000 miles or more, and then you can like recharge it by fueling up in a few minutes. And like, so a lot of these companies are doing their research into these batteries more so than in other areas, so they can compete with these cars, so that they can have the range and the rechargeability.
Yeah, like basically, all of these car companies, including like Tesla and Toyota, is one of the biggest ones. Especially actually in the East, they're really focusing on these batteries. And I think even Toyota did some sort of premiere at like or they're going to do a premiere at the Olympics.
Right, I think of their concept car. I think, right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be like the first generation of solid state battery cars.
Yeah.
And so like this is we're about to hit it basically, and the reason why these batteries are so different, and a lot of there's a lot of different factors. The first thing is that they're called solid state batteries because they're basically instead of using a liquid electrolyte, there's a solid electrolyte in the form of a glass or like either lithium or sodium based, essentially like the way that I believe it's the electrons can like pass through it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And there's a big difference because in liquid electrolytes, there's these little
tendrils,
right, and they grow from the side of the
electrodes, like into the electrolyte.
Yeah, and if they touch each other, that's when the fire explode, or the battery will explode and cause a fire.
Right, because it's like closing the circuit, the high potential circuit in the electricity. So their high voltage just instantly discharges.
And that's like when your phones would explode, like the Note, the Samsung Note.
Yeah.
That's what would be happening basically. And the fact that it's solid though means that these things can't even grow at all. Which allows it to basically be significantly safer than a regular lithium-ion battery with a liquid electrolyte.
Yeah, so we're looking at like like especially with cars where like you're worried about your car exploding,
Right.
or like even like your phone is a pretty deadly thing to have it being exploding. But then you can work your way into the medical field where you're thinking about implants and not worrying about that on that front.
Yeah, I mean, you can even. I think it's already been implemented on some small devices like RFID
Yeah,
chips
like
and
and pacemakers
right.
that are already in your body.
And these are like really really small versions of them,
Yeah.
and they work different, like a little bit
Mhm.
differently.
Yeah, I mean, I guess especially with research and development, you start small and then you scale it up,
Mhm.
and that's why we're hearing about like better development because we want to get them bigger than we already have them.
I think they are running into some difficulties though, because they don't really have the right tools to monitor and understand why these batteries are failing. So they're trying to get them bigger, but they're actually not able to get them to continue to function at the highest like capacities. Uh, and I think actually I remember when we did look up the Toyota event. I think it only said like 300 miles,
Mm.
which is still lower than even right, like the highest end
Right.
Tesla, which is 500, right?
Uh, I think it's about right 500.
But
For
there's like
Tesla.
so many other applications to it other than just the storage
Yeah.
capacity.
Hmm.
That is the reason why I guess they decided to use it.
Yeah.
Like the safety factor,
Mhm.
the fact that it can charge
Quicker.
quicker,
Yeah.
um, and
I
they're
imagine it's smaller just in general too,
right.
so that like the weight of the car when you think of like a Toyota, it's like definitely going to be like a smaller car than we're going to see like a Tesla.
Yeah, I think this is honestly gonna change. I mean, especially in the cars area, it's basically just gonna kill engines completely.
Mm.
Like, there's no point in a combustion engine after this, other than like sport. I think sport and like collectors will
Mm.
continue to have
I mean, yeah. I
vehicles.
mean, it's the same thing with like manual cars. The same reason people keep those around. Yeah, it's gonna be like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like a singularity, if you want to call it, is gonna be when the batteries can charge, just like you're going to fill up gas, and they can have the capacity as like a gas tank in that same amount of time. I
Mhm.
think that's when that happens. When they beat out, at that point, it just doesn't matter.
Well, I think the very first thing that's gonna happen is it's gonna become easier and easier to just charge this thing at your house every morning.
Mm.
And if it has 1,000 miles, right, you would just take it out, drive it, you bring it back, you plug it in, it fills up to max, and then it's done. And you go out again, and it's like if you have to go on like a crazy trip, then yeah, sure, maybe you have to like plan it out. But 1,000 miles, like you can go on most vacations in 1,000 miles.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't have to worry about, oh, gotta go get gas. Gotta go get
Hmm.
gas and go fill up, or like stop after work or before work to get gas now, because you just have the ability to charge your car at home. It's not like you
Right.
can pump gas at your house.
It's kind of crazy that it would basically be like being able to pump gas at your house, which if you could do, you would never go to a gas station again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and then, if you did have to go on some really long car trip, I'm sure it'd be pretty easy to pick out like two or three
Mm.
different
Like,
stations
yeah.
along the way
Mhm.
to stop at.
Mm.
So definitely think it's gonna wipe it out pretty soon. I'm pretty sure that even Ford is their next truck is gonna be completely electric, for
I don't,
example.
I don't think that's like their next truck. I just think that they're coming out with their
Right.
electric pickup truck.
But if they come out with a 100% electric pickup truck, and it also has significantly more torque and can pull almost
Mhm.
anything,
Mhm.
even the truckers understand that it's a better truck
Yeah.
and they can charge it at home.
Yeah.
And, it's less likely to have issues when you're driving off road, and
Mhm.
like you wouldn't have to worry about as much rust, and you wouldn't have to
Mhm.
worry about like a ton of problems. Like think about how many
Right. Yeah.
things go wrong in an
Mechanical. All these
engine.
moving parts and everything.
Like
Way
the
more.
entirety of a car is going to become simplified to the point where you don't even need mechanics anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I want like super magnet wheels, so you don't have to like
Mhm.
bolt them on. You just pop them
that'd
on,
be so cool.
and then just and it has
Mhm.
pins just so like the rotation. That'd be
And then you
sick.
could almost like I wonder if you could have a way to like lift up your own car and then like have the magnet just like you can turn it off with a button inside the
Mm.
car. And so like if you needed like if you had a well there's not even be flat tires anymore. Didn't we come out were we coming out with some sort of
Oh well, there's been like
airless tire?
prototypes, and there's been like I've seen like airless tires where it's like just rubber that has it would be a solid tire, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they just like cut like triangle shapes around the interior of it so that it kind of like is a spine in the middle, so like kind of molds and bends, but so it's like still cushiony.
Okay.
And it has it's like airless, but that's just because there's supports in it instead of like a tube.
Um, I mean, but those are way less likely to pop as well.
Yeah, they can't pop.
They can't pop at all. I think they could get like ripped apart though. I'm sure, like in a car accident or something, if
Yeah,
like something got under them. So they're not
something
like.
catastrophic happens. He's sure.
I wonder if you can still shoot them out, or
No,
like how much damage. I mean, you still do damage to it, but probably nowhere near
no,
as
because
much.
so if you look at a side profile, there's like a bunch of holes in the side profile. So like it's just like a spokes. It looks sort of like spokes on like like a bike tire, but if the
Okay.
spokes was made of where the spokes were made of rubber,
Hmm.
so that it just like supports itself.
If you did shoot it though, would you break those
And if you
supports in
break
like
one
some
support,
spot?
yeah, maybe if like one spot is hit a bunch of times, probably.
But yeah, I mean, like that's gonna be huge too. I mean, I feel like cars are gonna be so different in even like 5 years, 10 years, and
Yeah,
this is about projected to really, I feel like hit consumers in about 2025.
that sounds about right.
Hmm.
Sounds about right.
But there is still skepticism around it, and I think it's fair because there has been a lot of other major battery breakthroughs in the past that haven't really panned out or really shown anything. But interestingly about solid state batteries as well is that the person behind it is this guy named John B. Goodenough.
Is he good enough? I guess he's good enough
He
to make the batteries.
every single time he was like, not good enough, and it's got to be good enough, and it just wasn't for him.
It's gotta be good enough.
But this guy, so he is basically the OG of like modern technology. He basically was on the team that invented RAM.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the team that came out with the lithium ion battery, which is basically the most
Ubiquitous battery.
yeah, it's used in almost every single thing that
Yeah.
we use in our entire lives. And he actually got a Nobel Prize this year
Yeah.
because of that. And then he also has another Nobel Prize. I think no, maybe not. I forget. But he basically has several major awards. He's one of the most well-known people, especially in batteries.
Mm.
And it was his team that made one of the most crucial discoveries into this, and he's been pioneering this, and I think this is definitely gonna
Right. So this
beat
is
it.
this is very credible development.
Right.
It's not just like when you read those studies that's like, oh, they did this one on this like one lab rat in this special condition that like this drug's gonna work. That like doesn't really get to development or even human testing situation. This is somebody that has done this before. That it has promise behind it. in a
Right.
sense.
It's got like a really smart group of people behind it, and pretty much every single car company in the entire planet pouring probably billions into it over the last like 5 years.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
Actually, I think it's probably more like 3 years. The last 3 years, because 2017, I feel like is when everything really
Yeah.
started.
Well, they probably poured like a bunch of money into the batteries themselves, just maybe not solid state particularly.
Yeah, I mean,
Before that, because they're
overall-
trying to, they're trying to
Mhm.
figure it out. So now, if this gives them a better answer, they'll go with that.
Yeah. And I think that everyone, I mean, when you're in business, you got to think things differently, right? You have to recognize when everything's going to change, and you have to be the first one to hit the market with that, which is why Toyota is doing what it's doing. In fact, actually, I think there's even like I think they have a couple other companies that are also working with them. As
With
well.
them, I think it was like Nissan
Yeah.
and Hyundai, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was two other Japanese companies,
Okay.
and they're literally coming out with one next year. So yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be crazy shit.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like other than cars, I think like where else do you think is like the other like
I mean,
biggest
definitely, I think electric
application?
planes
Okay.
because, I mean, you remember the whole Greta,
Mm-hmm.
what I forget how to say her,
Thunberg, I
Thunberg,
don't
something
know,
like that.
something like that.
I feel bad because I feel like I've watched so many videos that have
I
included
just
that
read her
story.
name. I don't pronounce her name. Like I don't.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the whole point of that was that planes use a ton
Mm-hmm.
of gas
Mm-hmm.
and
Jet fuel. Yeah.
jet fuel,
Fuel.
and
Mm.
basically they put a ton of toxic fumes into the air,
Mm.
and it's like the number one way to reduce your carbon footprint is
Mm.
to not fly.
Okay.
And so it's definitely a major contributor to
Mm.
obviously like global warming and
Mm.
um,
Like what's it
greenhouse
called?
effect.
Yeah,
And
greenhouse gas or whatever.
so if we were able to make it so that you can fly with 100% renewable energy in the form of an like electrical storage, and
Mm.
because I mean that's the problem. If you were to like
Mm.
actually put out the same power as gas or like jet fuel
Mm.
with an electrical battery, it would require a ton of space,
Yeah.
and it would be very convoluted. Probably it would require a lot of
Yeah.
engineering to get that to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. There's a lot of discharge that happen. I almost remember there was something we must have talked about at some point that had to do with like a rocket or something using some sort of electrical fuel that was like a catalyst that was charged with electricity, something like that. But I feel like this is probably like a different situation,
Wasn't that like
possibly.
one of the Elon Musk
I think so.
rockets? And I think it was like used as an ignition.
Yeah. That's what it was. Okay.
Because they probably just like heated some sort of like object with
Mhm.
an electrical
Right.
uh,
Okay.
current.
Okay. So this would be like a different situation. Yeah, but like the amount of energy at the output that also
Oh yeah.
store like the like electric like all fully electric like planes will not happen for like a freaking long time.
Oh yeah. I mean, hopefully within 20, 30 years, maybe.
Hopefully. I mean, otherwise you have to be okay with flying slower.
I feel like if we discovered this in like 2015 to 2017, right? Because originally it was in these very small devices.
Mm.
Um, if that was like only in 5 years, imagine 25 years. Right? We were already putting it into our cars.
Mm.
I feel like with the thing with technology is it can be very exponential.
Mm.
And as time goes by, more and more technology can be made, and if we can get to the point where AI is completely dominating our society, we're just going to make them do stuff so much more efficiently than we could ever have imagined doing.
True.
That we can spend way more time researching, and almost everybody is going to be like in higher learning and a higher difficulty jobs, and life is going to be completely different for like our kids, for example.
Yeah, and well, we can also use AI to like research stuff as well.
Yeah.
But not. But then on top of that, there's gonna be things that will be discovered by the time we think in this timeline that we use. Like if we use like solid state batteries for planes, there's probably something else that will be discovered that would probably be better. I feel like it's like in that time frame, with the way that we like just been discovering things and like
I think that
these technologies.
Trains, I mean, I feel like you can't get around going over like huge bodies of water.
Yeah.
But if we had like underground tunnel systems that could bring you from like New York City to California in 3 hours, going like 500 miles or like 600, 700, 800 miles an hour on like a bullet train.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would imagine it being, because it's like the Boring Company.
Yeah.
And, I feel like there's companies that are realizing that there's this huge market, or if we can develop and create the technology to actually bring people from one location to another, then I guess subvert traffic, then it's actually like really lucrative. But the thing is that most of these things like trains and subways and all these systems are all government, and the government sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not a business, and its job isn't. I mean, its job is to make money, but there's not like a person who's really motivated and wants to like make the system work as optimally as possible behind it, like in a business where it's like you'll lose everything if you fail.
Yeah.
There's no risk for a government because there's just always there's always money.
Right. You want it to be the cheapest to bring somebody from point A to point B.
But also like efficient and a good experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you go to Japan, they have trains everywhere. Obviously, it's a significantly smaller country, but I mean, we don't even have a single city that has anywhere near the comparable level of transit that Tokyo has, for example, where there's just like trains everywhere and people just almost exclusively use public transportation. And if they're not, then they're like riding bikes.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these other countries do these sorts of things, and America is just like, hey, LA, you know, you live here.
Yeah.
Get ready to sit in an hour of traffic every day. Have fun.
Oh man. Yeah, or like jump on your like electric scooter and like good luck.
I mean, it's just I think that everything is gonna change.
Okay.
It's gonna be crazy. There's even like I feel like we shouldn't tangent too much. But I even heard about like anti-aging, like technology.
Yeah.
Where we found that I forget exactly how they did it, but basically you can cause your cells to go into a previous life stage, which means that we could halt or even reverse aging, possibly in the future.
Wow.
And I think I've said this in conversations, like we may never die. I've said that before.
Maybe.
Like the whole reason I had said that though was like by the time you're 80 or 90, that's another, I don't know, like 75 years of technology. And if 75 years of technology go by, then the age that we might die might be like already 120. Because we'll have cured cancer and we'll have cured like 98%, 99% of all diseases.
Yeah.
And people probably be living significantly more healthy. We would just be growing our own meat out of like labs.
Yeah. Like I feel like the last like really deadly thing that was discovered was Ebola. That I feel like was more of a scare than anything. Like the amount of people that died from that wasn't that high, and we took care of that pretty quickly. So I feel like if we do discover any more things like that, we're just gonna get rid of it before it happens. So like over time, yeah, all these diseases will just, or whatever viruses and all these things are just gonna go away in our lifetime.
But yeah, I mean, I think that we've pretty much covered the whole topic. We ended up talking about like other forms of technology.
Yeah, there's other. I think like one really cool form of technology that I really like is like augmented reality, where like with the batteries, like they're already kind of in the small things, but like with like to be able to put like a full experience on your face, like a whole computer, and just like be able to just like have different worlds like around you, or like if you. Like, you always go back to, like, shopping or something stupid. But, like, if you want navigation, walking navigation, you could just see it.
Like Google Glass.
Yeah, exactly. Or any sort of thing like that. When, like, you need the higher computing, you need the higher energy. So you need that better battery. And I think these type of batteries will help.
Right, because they're a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And you might be able to fit them in, like, glasses, for example. And then, like, have, like, little mini LED displays that are see-through. Yeah, and I feel like Google Glass. Is it Google Glass or
Google Glass?
They tried a little too early. The technology wasn't there yet. The batteries weren't small enough. And also
they didn't know the right placement either of like how they wanted to do the lens.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of weird. And there was that like big block thing.
Yeah, you had to look up to use it. It was kind of weird.
But yeah, I mean these batteries are going to be hitting us soon. They're going to be changing pretty much every aspect of our lives. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And that's about it. See you guys next week.
Yeah. Let us know what you think about this technology.
Yep.
As always, thank you for listening and following.
Check us out every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are available.
You can find us on Instagram at Unstoppable Force Podcast and Twitter at UForcePod for news and updates.
We'll see you guys next week. And
And
until
until then,
then, stay
stay
unstoppable.
unstoppable.